Hey, somebody needs to solve the problem. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to The Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or coach. I hope you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest information the world has to offer today. This week, The Professional Noticer is sponsored by Creating Measurable Results. You know, every company wants results, but here's the truth. Most don't know how to create them. Training programs fade, motivational talks wear off, and culture, well, culture can either push you forward or quietly destroy you from within. At Creating Measurable Results, we do more than inspire. We coach entire organizations from top leadership to the front lines, using proven principles that drive profit, performance, and personal growth. We generate higher revenue and attract and retain quality employees and customers. This isn't theory. For years, CMR has equipped teams to transform weaknesses into strengths, align leadership with culture, and create momentum that lasts. The results? They are measurable. Because real change doesn't come from a single seminar. Real change happens when coaching becomes a part of your cultural DNA. So if you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and start creating results you can actually measure, visit creatingmeasurableresults.com. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on The Professional Noticer. And today, a special episode. It's an examination of something that's been going on the past several weeks. And I'd like to start by asking a question. Remember standing in line to get into Cracker Barrel? Not having to do that anymore, are you? Okay, well, here's the surface problem, and that is a logo that nobody wanted. When Cracker Barrel unveiled its new look several weeks ago, executives described it as a bold step into the future. Gone was the iconic old-timer figure leaning against a wooden barrel, an image that had adorned storefronts since 1977. In its place stood a pared-down, text-based logo and a sleek new interior design featuring white walls, brighter lights, and stripped-down decor. The company poured $700 million into this rebranding effort, betting that a modern aesthetic would make Cracker Barrel more appealing to younger audiences. CEO Julie Fels-Massino openly admitted that the chain was just not as relevant as we once were. But customers didn't see a bold new beginning. They saw the destruction of the very charm that made Cracker Barrel special to them. Social media lit up with outrage. Loyalists called the new logo generic and soulless and even pitiful. Analysts were equally brutal. One branding expert remarked, "The holy grail of marketing is to create a brand people feel ownership of. When you have that, as Cracker Barrel did, you never ever abandon it." The customers have been outraged. One wrote, "Your restaurant is failing because your food quality and service have slipped hugely. Logo rebranding and tons of white paint are not going to fix that." The backlash was so swift and severe that within days the company reversed course, reinstating the old logo and quietly repainting the remodeled stores. Stock values whipsawed, and with a single day's trading, erasing close to $94 million in market value. From the outside, this may look like a simple marketing blunder, but underneath lies a far more serious failure that we need to examine, one that logos and wall paint could never fix. You know, President Donald Trump said Cracker Barrel should go back to the old logo and admit a huge mistake. The Democratic Party's social media gave the restaurant's rebrand a thumbs down. They said, "We think the Cracker Barrel rebrand sucks too." My point being, if the Democrats are agreeing with Donald Trump, somebody has seriously screwed up. The real problem is a culture in decline. For all the headlines about logos and furniture, Cracker Barrel's decline has very little to do with branding. It has everything to do with their culture. Food and service have deteriorated. Loyal customers, the people who once drove out of their way for a home-cooked Cracker Barrel meal, now complain loudly about smaller portions, longer wait times, inattentive servers, and bland food. One customer summarized the situation perfectly on social media. They said, "Your restaurant is failing because your food quality and service have slipped hugely. Logo rebranding and tons of white paint are not going to fix that." Another said, "The food tastes like frozen TV dinners now. The service is slow. The smiles are gone. We didn't come for a new logo. We came for the old Cracker Barrel experience, and it's gone." The numbers tell the same story. Net income fell by more than half from 2023 to 2024. The profits from $99 million to $40.9 million, despite the revenues being about the same. Retail sales within the stores, once a reliable profit driver, dropped also in the latest quarter. Restaurant sales barely moved, increasing by 1%, a sign of flatlining customer demand. The cosmetic rebrand didn't fix the decline because it never addressed the root cause. The culture inside the company no longer values the guest experience the way it once did. How leadership misdiagnosed the disease by being ignorant of the power of culture is something to explore. The executive steering Cracker Barrel's rebrand believed that external appearance was the key to relevance. They confused what the restaurant looked like with what it felt like. But customers never chose Cracker Barrel because of a font or a color scheme. They chose it because of the culture of comfort, friendly service, reliable food, rocking chairs, antiques on the walls, peg games, and the sense of stepping into a slower, warmer time. By spending hundreds of millions on visual updates while ignoring food quality and the service, leadership revealed a shocking ignorance of what actually creates loyalty: culture. Cracker Barrel's leadership tried to trade its identity for an image. Culture is what people say about you when you're not in the room. It is the lived experience of every meal, every smile, every interaction. Cracker Barrel once had a culture that embodied Southern hospitality, but as leadership shifted focus to relevance, that culture eroded. Instead of doubling down on the staff morale and the staff experience and culinary quality, leadership tried to buy relevance through decor. The result? The company has alienated its core audience while failing to attract new ones. It's usually the death knell of a company. Cracker Barrel founder Tommy Lowe, who sold the company years ago, he's watching this and he said, "This is pitiful, just throwing money out the window. They're painting walls while the food and the service fall apart." What we're seeing here is a butterfly effect of cultural blindness. Employees will always mirror leadership's culture. Or in other words, when employees sense a logo is more important to leadership than they are, at that point, doing their best work is no longer that important to them. When corporate leadership treats culture as an afterthought, employees follow suit. Servers who feel undervalued provide mechanical, indifferent service. Cooks who aren't supported cut corners. Managers under cost pressure focus on speed instead of care. Culture is contagious, but so is its absence. And of course, customers notice a decline in culture instantly. Guests don't articulate it in boardroom terms, but they feel it. Cold biscuits, an inattentive waitress, a manager who doesn't stop by the table. These are cultural failures, not branding failures. And unlike logos, culture cannot be redesigned with a press release. Ultimately, the lack of understanding as to the importance of culture comes across as a betrayal of their heritage. Cracker Barrel's entire identity was built on nostalgia. For decades, families came not for fine dining, but for predictability, comfort, and a sense of tradition. By discarding its logo and store identity, leadership signaled that the company no longer valued that heritage. To many loyalists, this wasn't innovation, it was a betrayal. A Wall Street analyst said, Cracker Barrel didn't lose relevance because of its logo. It lost relevance because its leaders allowed the core experience to erode. Here's what Cracker Barrel could have done. If leadership truly wanted to restore relevance and profitability, the blueprint was simple, and it had nothing to do with logos or paint. Invest in coaching. The employees don't need training. Training is what you do when someone doesn't know how to take orders, or they don't know how to bus a table, or they're unsure as to how to greet a customer. Every employee Cracker Barrel has knows how to do their job. Training has already been done. What these people need is coaching, specifically coaching regarding culture. Culture is transmitted through people, a warm smile, a quick coffee refill, genuine friendliness. These things are more powerful than any brand refresh. Leadership should have poured resources into coaching to embody the hospitality customers expected. Only coaching can create the measurable results that have eroded in recent years. Prioritizing food quality should be a given. Declining food standards are mentioned in nearly every critique of Cracker Barrel's fall. Customers will forgive an old logo, but they won't forgive bland hash brown casserole or undercooked biscuits or meat that is burned on the outside and frozen in the middle. Culture shows up on the plate. They should honor heritage while innovating gently. Cracker Barrel didn't need a sterile, whitewashed look. It needed subtle updates that respected its roots. Fresher menus, cleaner stores, small modern touches that didn't erase the country store feel. Successful rebrands in other industries always build on heritage. They don't bulldoze it. We should create a culture of listening. The speed and ferocity of customer backlash proved that Cracker Barrel had lost touch with its audience. Leadership should have invested in an ongoing dialogue regarding their culture with guests and employees long before attempting this costly overhaul. The larger lesson for all companies is this. Cracker Barrel's debacle is not just a restaurant story. It's a corporate parable. The lesson is universal. Culture drives results. When leaders misunderstand this, no amount of marketing, redesign, or capital spending can save them. Logos do not make loyal customers. Culture does. Paint doesn't build trust. Culture does. Trendy decor doesn't generate word of mouth. Culture does. Culture is not what hangs on the walls. It's what lives in the hearts of the people who serve the food that arrives at the table and the way customers feel when they walk in and out the door. Cracker Barrel's leadership tried to buy a new identity. What they needed was to rebuild a culture that employees and customers could believe in again. Here's the conclusion. Why Cracker Barrel failed. At its core, Cracker Barrel's $700 million disaster was not about design. It was about ignorance. Corporate leadership mistook branding for culture, aesthetics for substance, logos for loyalty. The company has wasted years and millions chasing an image problem when the rot was cultural all along. Until Cracker Barrel's leaders confront the truth, that bad food, bad service, and a broken culture are the real culprits, the chain's decline will continue. A logo can be changed back in a week, but rebuilding culture, that's going to take some time and some intentional effort. And unless leadership wakes up to that reality, no redesign, no campaign, no relevance initiative will save Cracker Barrel from becoming just another failed relic of the past. Morrison's Cafeterias, Po Folks, Black Eyed Pea, all of them were great restaurants whose disappearances can be traced to a failure of culture. What will Cracker Barrel be in a couple or 3 years? Or will they be at all? You know the answer to their issues. Now we get to watch and see whether or not they choose to invest in some other form of paint or logos, or if they invest in their people and create the culture we all want to be a part of again. I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, we are harnessing the tiny bits of mental energy we can generate for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. Hey, if you know a corporate leader that could use some information on how culture can create measurable results, refer them to creatingmeasurableresults.com. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye.